Have you ever wondered what goes on behind the scenes when you turn on big shows like the Grammys or the Emmys or the Oscars? Well, it's probably a lot more than you even realize. On today's podcast, we sit down with my friend, my attorney, and one of the most badass women in the industry, Kerry Smith. She runs an entertainment law firm called SELG, Smith Entertainment Law Group, and she is the brain behind hundreds and hundreds of deals across the entertainment industry a year. We talked to her about some of the basic legal terms that you, me, and everyone you know should know, how things in the industry have changed in terms of deals, and how the entertainment industry at large is shifting. We also talked to her about the art of negotiation, and she gives some really good tips for every person listening. So let's go. Kerry Smith, welcome to Cultivated Conversations.
Thank you.
This is not only Kerry's first podcast interview, but I think her first podcast experience
that would be true.
In general.
Yes.
Kerry, I've had the pleasure of knowing you and working with you for 6 years, five, 6 years.
Yeah.
But I always love to start off the podcast with kind of setting up how we know each other.
Sure.
So, I mean, I could tell from my point of view, but I just remember this woman and really, and I say email, right? Because so much of our work is on email, but this email force that was Kerry Smith was just across so many projects that I was doing. And I just felt like, oh, the person on the other side of this, like, gets it and operates like I do and is efficient and gets shit done. And who is this person? and how can I meet her? I feel like you and I had a phone call one day, and then I was just like, Can you be my attorney?
Sure.
Yeah. Like, I actually think that's how it went down.
We were on so many shows during COVID.
We were just in it. We were just so in it.
It was all those produced in your living room
Uh-huh.
kind of shows, the Brady Bunch boxes, and they were just coming in with all of our clients all over the place.
I know.
And that graduation show with like 130 talent booked, and it was on fire.
Yeah.
And it was nobody had anything else to do, so we all just worked 24/7.
We did.
But it was nuts, and your name was on everything, but you guys were organized, so it was like, oh my gosh, these people get it.
Yeah.
And we get all the details we need, and they understand what we need to do our job. So, I remember it was sort of a symbiotic
It was a
thing.
nice,
We're like, okay, cool.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then shortly after we started working together, you launched your own company. So talk to us a little bit, I guess, one, how did you get to where you are, right? And then how and when did you know it was time to take that leap into starting your own business?
I had my own firm a long time ago, so I had done that a little bit once when I was first married with my first husband, and my son was young, and so I had started my own practice then, and so I was independent. And I'd been at ABC in business affairs, so I did all that, and then I was going to move out to the West Coast, and then I wound up getting engaged and deciding to stay in New York, so I started my own firm. So I had that for a number of years. So I had done that once, but I was just me, working out of my house and that kind of thing. And then I was working in some various firms, and then moved out to Los Angeles in 2019, about 6 months before COVID. So that was interesting timing. Mm-hmm. And I was with a firm that I came out with, and they were great. And it was one of the few firms that really understood the business model of my kind of law practice, and that's that so much of it's on flat fees. So we don't work getting paid for every hour we work. So we're not on percentage deals because we don't represent necessarily an artist or a talent or a production company in that way. We go in and do all the production legal, typically, on these big projects like the ones that we worked on. So I was on my, with my team that had come over from the other firm, and we had, 4 or 5 of us. And where I was, they understood the model better than anybody else. But it still is always going to get compared to everybody else at the firm of like, well, you work this many hours. Why isn't the profit this much? Because this department was that much. And the writing was just kind of on the wall during COVID that, we were working an awful lot, and everybody was getting their salary slashed. And, as you and I just discussed, I mean, I was busier than I'd ever been in my entire career. We were working 24/7. And there was just a ton of money coming in on my work, and I was getting none of it. And I said, this is nuts.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking about if things changed with the pandemic or what was going to happen, if I was going to have less assets available, or if the firm was going to say we have to cut costs, you've got to cut people, I wasn't going to be able to get the volume of work done, because you know better than anybody how much work we have when we get all these agreements. You go book it, but one artist could take 100 hours to get the deal done, or somebody's just easy and signs
it. 15 minutes.
Right. Yeah. So we needed the bodies, the manpower, and I thought if this goes sideways, I'm not going to have the ability to keep the clients, because I'm not going to be able to keep up with the work, and then I'm going to lose the clients, and the firm's not going to care. They're just going to get rid of me.
Yeah.
And had I stayed at that firm or any other firm, the strikes would have killed me because, we both, commiserated together through all the strikes and business dried up and they would have just been like, see ya. And then how am I going to start all over again, from that point? So it was really the only option I felt like I had. And it was scary as hell. Yeah. And I did it during COVID and then followed the strikes and then follows, the fires and the new administration and the layoffs and the mergers. And it's just been like one thing after another.
Yeah.
So it's been crazy, but, it's hard, but it's definitely allowed me to grow and do what I want to do and call the shots and be more available to the clients because I can decide what's going to happen. I don't have to listen to somebody tell me it's okay or not because I don't do that well.
Yeah. So. Yeah. The flexibility is amazing, right?
Huge.
There's projects you are the payday. There's projects that I call them the passion project, right? And then there's also ones that are like the resume thing where,
sure,
just
the
being
tentpole stuff that's cool or, like we did the whole fire aid project, and that was huge. Yeah. And so you can do things like that. You can do charitable works. You can do lots of things that you might not be able to do if you had to look at the business model elsewhere. Yeah. Which those same firms have to make the same decisions that you and I make. Yep. It's just we're in the driver's seat.
So talk to us a little bit about how your business, and having a firm that works the way that it does in the entertainment industry. I think for folks who, they see the TV shows, they see the specials, they see the award shows, right? But it takes a lot to get to that point. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your role in the behind the scenes, right, of making some of that stuff happen.
So it depends on if the client has us as their business affairs attorney, so to speak, negotiating their production services agreement or their deal to do such a program, or which is a part of it. And then if not, and we come in and do the production legal part of it, then we pick up from that point. But we're kind of in the loop as that deal might be getting negotiated by a different law firm or an agent or somebody else that might be handling it. But we kind of come in at the very beginning of everything, and we know that something's in development because you've got to get all the paperwork in place. So forever you have to have everything signed up for, whether it's the talent, whether it's releases, materials, songs, music, anything that's contained in these programs needs to have the rights acquired, and that is a paper trail. You also have, every piece of every contract of everything happening. It's the venue, it's the insurance, it's the porta potty rentals, it's the craft services. Exactly. It's every above and below the line person. It's every talent. It's every piece of music. And nowadays, if there are these variety specials where you have musical performances, you have to get label waivers. So now it's not just the agent and the manager and the lawyer that sign off on X person performing. The label has a say, and the label can say yes or no, or the label wants to charge money. It's not just clearing the music, that somebody could sing somebody else's song, but the labels own these artists, and so they've got to give their permission. So there's so many steps. Yeah. And so many contracts we do on every show. Yeah. I mean, hundreds of, and that's not just the artists, so it's the volume is crazy. And they're just flying at 100 miles an hour. And you know what it's like with productions. And then it's like a last minute quick booking and, a remote, and they tell you Tuesday that it's going to be Wednesday morning. And, some young production associate, didn't tell you about 6 contracts. And then they're like, we're loading it in a minute.
And then it's on you.
And they're like,
and then
well,
you have
can
to
we sign
out,
this? And I was like, well, hold on, and they'll be in a different time zone, and well, they won't change anything. Well, then, okay, so you want me to bless this, but I have issues with some of the language. So it's always frantic. But so there's an awful lot that goes into every one of these projects. So if it's a one-off like live event or tape to live special, the Grammys or the Oscars or something, that's one sort of cadence, and then you might have things that have a longer runway with a series, that we would do. Like we did the Steve Harvey show, which was a lot of fun. Lots of episodes, a lot of volume, but kind of all condenses, and you shoot it all in blocks of time. Or you have these weekly serials, that we kind of do, or like a docu-follow that might have 3 or 4 episodes. So they all have a different cadence.
Yeah,
but
they do.
It's all volume. Yeah, and it just depends. Also depends on who's booking the talent, and how it goes, and how easy it is for us to extrapolate what we need to do on that part.
Yeah. Well, and I think, by profession, I, book and produce the talent. The way that your job works and my job works, like they really are so intertwined and necessary, right, for any show that you see on television. But I think what we've been seeing and what, I've talked with you about quite a bit is this transition, right, into social media platforms and creators and brand deals, right? So the industry is changing. So I'm curious, your POV, looking back, how talent deals looked then versus what they look like now?
They have changed a lot, and it's obviously been the landscape of how content is viewed and available. And there's obviously so many more avenues for content, and so many people producing content. I mean, of course, podcasts were around 10 years ago, but now there's so many avenues. People with their own YouTube channels. Every television network now has a streaming component. And that's changed things a lot because it changes all the union rules. Because that's another big thing we have to deal with, which is all the unions that we deal with, and we
especially
interface with
after
all
the strikes too.
Yes,
right?
and so how does that change things, and what are the residuals going to be, and how is it going to impact things? And it used to be that you did a special and it was going to appear on NBC, and that was the end of it. It was live once, and you cleared for that. Now it's going to have a 1 month or a 1 year and in perpetuity aspect to it because it's going to be on Peacock, and so now the clearances cost more, and now things cost more, and there's different ways of trying to do the deals, and the talent is much more concerned about their name, image, and likeness rights because it used to be, okay, we're going to rerun the show 2 or 3 times. It's a Christmas special, and it's going to air 3 times in December, and that's the end of it. And then the artists were less concerned because they know it's a limited period of time. Now, the talent is much more concerned because now they want to use your name, image, and likeness to promote the platform, to promote the network, to all the sponsors that are involved. And the artists are like, hey, hold on a minute, we're not getting paid for that. I'm not going to help Toyota sell cars. And then also the talent is very concerned about how they look because oh, that was my fat years, so I don't like that anymore. And you can tell oh, that was before I had the baby and I had a shorter haircut, or that was this or that was that, or so they all look so different. So they have a lot more concerns about how they're portrayed or what people are going to do to exploit them, laterally. And they're not wrong, but the networks, they want everything for no money, right? The streamers want everything for no money. So we're tasked with having to get everything for nothing. And the artist representatives are tasked with giving them as little as we need to for what we're trying to do here. And as we know on so many shows, they don't get paid very much. They're doing it for promo, for press, favors, things. So,
I know.
It's a really unreasonable ask to have, the rights to someone's child's first name for the rest of time when they're showing up for scale, or they're getting a waiver and they're not even getting paid. So that part has become much more complicated, and so the approach is different. The labels are much more involved with getting these label waivers if that becomes a problem. The brand sponsorship and endorsement stuff becomes a little trickier when they want to put stuff on social media for the rest of time. And so is there monetization, is there not? And when there is, they want a back end, they want a piece. And so it gets much more involved in a higher level that has nothing to do with our little show that we're doing, but yet somehow we get pulled into it because we're interfacing with all the parties. I'm like, not my job, and not in a way that we won't do whatever we can to help stuff, but I don't even have privity to some of this stuff. I have nothing to do with that overall deal that artist has, like Snoop with NBC. I'm just doing this little show over here. I don't know about that, and I can't get in and fight about things that have nothing to do with just our little show. We're just doing this 1 hour special over here. So that stuff gets a little funny.
And it's interesting too because what I've seen on my end is exactly what you say. And it used to be like, hey, come and host this show or be a guest on the show, and here's your SAG rate, or they're coming on and doing it for nothing, and they sign their appearance release and voila. And now, I mean, the amount of negotiating that we, even on our end, right? And I'd always done some of that stuff, but it was more when it was a big paid thing.
Right.
Now, even when it's not a paid thing, it's, and everyone, to your point, everyone wants the talent to post on their socials. Well, guess what? They get paid for that stuff.
Exactly. The talent, they want glam. They want to be put together because they're all on social media so much and photographs so much. So they want to look their best, and it costs money. Their stylists have to get paid too.
I know.
And they're doing 6 or 7 press tours, for the shows that they're watching, in a week. And so they have to have different looks and different outfits, and they're not going to go pay for it themselves. Like you're asking, but they want to be flown. They want to go private. They want the handler. They want the this. They want the that. And then that gets into all of it too. And so to your point, they want all the social media posts because that helps drive the advertising dollars, but they don't want to pay for it. And the talent's like, hold on a second. You're asking an awful lot of us again. And so it's trying to navigate that and keep everybody happy and sort of rabbi things behind the scenes so that it isn't necessarily revealed that maybe an artist is difficult or his or her management is difficult. It's usually not the artist, it's usually the reps. Or maybe the network is like, we don't really care about that person, but then you don't want that artist to feel that this place is not treating them properly. So often you're massaging things so that
Always.
everybody's like not knowing what's really being said, like how is it being portrayed, because they could take it the wrong way and be like, what the heck is the matter with this person, like who do they think they are? And it might not be them, it just is like, you know, a manager taking a position trying to, you know, show who's boss. And so you're constantly trying to translate things in a way that keeps everybody happy. So I feel like I'm kind of a manager, therapist,
100%.
babysitter thing. It's like an art, you know?
Yeah, that is the new art of negotiation.
Doing the contract is no big deal. That's the easy part. Like that's, you know,
Yeah. Modern negotiation looks so different too, right? Because to your point, there's so much more of the hand holding, and it's just a lot more work to get simple things done. I'd love to hear from you, like for anyone who's listening, right? Whether they work in the industry or wherever they work, like what might be some tips for when they're going into a negotiation or they're thinking about negotiating something?
Anything in their life.
Anything in their life.
I think you always want to go into a negotiation in a positive mind space. And I think you want to try to stay in that positive mind space through the negotiation, whether it's something for yourself, if you're negotiating, you know, a deal at work and you're, you know, procuring a new vendor and you're going to get a whole new set of copiers and you've got to do a deal with somebody. You know, you've always got to leave some room on the table, and everybody has to come out of a deal feeling like it was a good deal for both sides. Everybody has to win. And this mindset of, you know, you screw the other side or you pound them harder, you come in guns blazing, and the more you get, the better you did. You don't, because you're always going to find these people again in your life, wherever it is. I mean, it can wind up like, you know, they're the head of the PTA at your kid's school, and you're like, oh gosh, you know, you never know when you're going to cross people again, whether it's in business and social, and everything mixes together now. And because of social media, you know, so many areas of our lives get intertwined in ways that you never would have imagined. You're like, holy cow, I didn't, like, you know, that person through this person. And so I think it's, you know, you want to put your best foot forward. You want to be respectful. And you never want to get difficult or complicated or ugly. You don't want that reputation. I don't think you do as well in a negotiation that way. I think if you're negotiating something for yourself, it's a very hard thing to do, you know, which is why people have the agents and the lawyers like me. I'll go in for clients that don't necessarily have an agent, and I'm terrible at negotiating for myself. Most of us are, because it's personal, you know, and you don't want to ask for too much. And for women too, I think it's harder for us to fight for what we feel is right for us, because we've been conditioned that we're not supposed to ask. And then we get frustrated when we're not treated the same or it's not a level playing field. So, you know, there's those obstacles to overcome, but it's obviously a different kind of conversation. But it's very hard to ask for yourself and advocate for yourself. So, you know, I always tell people to write down some things beforehand so that you have what you need in front of you. You know, very few negotiations take place face to face like this. You know, you're going to, even now with Zoom and everything is on a camera, you can have a piece of paper down below the camera field. And so you have your talking points, you know, or if things aren't going the way you think you want, or it's a job interview and you're getting the sense that they may not hire you, you can have your talking points down so you don't get flustered and forget to remind them that, I appreciate that I might not be right for this particular role, but I've really enjoyed learning about your company, and I'd like to be considered for future roles that might be here that might be more suited or tailored for my expertise. And so just to have all the things so that you don't lose your comfort, you know, or your footing, so that you can, you know, just take a couple breaths and do what you want to do. It's okay not to know something. So clients will ask me stuff and say, well, what about this or that? I don't know, but I'll find out. And that's a perfectly good answer. Making something up or kind of bullshitting your way through it is always transparent, and then you're not trustworthy. And I think I've found that my clients were always fine with, you know, my saying, I don't know, but let me go find out. I'll call people that will know and I'll get back to you. And then you do. And they're like, great, you know, we'll figure it out, because you can't know everything.
No,
you know, as an attorney, I can't know everything, right? It's like a doctor. They specialize in a zillion different areas. And the podiatrist can't talk to me about, you know, an ovarian cyst. It's just like probably not, you know, maybe a little bit. But so I think that's, you know, definitely an aspect of it as well, of just, you know, advocating for yourself and having some talking points ahead of time so that you can think about how it's going to go and what the end goal is. And I think the other thing too is that if you have an end goal of what you're trying to do, sometimes there's other ways of getting there. So if the goal is this thing and you have to do this to get to that thing, that's okay, because you got what you needed. It might not be the most direct path, but sometimes those detours, better things come as a result of it. More ancillary things can come on board. So you know, it's all worthwhile in the process, even the bad deals. And always try to win over that difficult person. Just kill them with kindness. It usually works.
Yeah. I'd say 9 times out of 10 it works, but then there's that one person that you're
there's a couple where you're just like,
gosh,
who's the attorney? Who's the great? Like, okay, you know, but that's okay, you know.
So I want to play a little, I guess we can call it a game with you.
Okay.
There are a lot of terms when it comes to contracts, deals, that are thrown out, right? A lot of these words and these catchphrases. I'm just going to say some things and I want you to give us the one-liner of what it is.
Oh gosh, okay. Hopefully I'll
and
know
you
what they
will
mean.
know, you will know all of them. But these are things that I kid you not, if I had $1 for every time I use these words or these come up. And I think one of the things that I've been doing at Cultivated over the past few months is asking the team, like, what are some things that you don't understand, right? And so these are people that work in the industry, and they're like, actually, I don't understand the difference between some of these things.
Okay.
And so, in any case, all right, intellectual property.
Right. It's all sorts of things. It's songs, it's photography, it's art, it's designs, the IP of something is it's intangible stuff. Well, art can be IP too. So it's going to be anything subject to copyright so that somebody else can't go and steal your ideas.
Yep. And there's a huge trend right now in a lot of industries, but in television and film, like when you see a show that is made about a book or a film that is made about a book, right? That is IP. So it's something that is, so when you hear IP, it means...
Right. It could be, it's copyrightable, it could be a trademark, it could be, it's all the things that kind of fall in that practice. But yeah, if it's based on something else, it's somebody else did something and you're going to do something based on it, and you have to secure the rights to that underlying IP to be able to take it and do something else, because you can't steal someone else's work.
Yep. Okay, and then you mentioned something earlier. You were saying name, voice, and likeness rights.
Name, image, likeness rights. So you'll see NIL on things a lot. So that's the rights to a person to utilize their name, their image, their likeness, their voice, to advertise and promote a program, let's say, or to use it to exploit a product. And, people have those rights in and to themselves, and you can't go utilize those things without their permission.
Yeah.
So you need to get permission to do that. So you can't just take a photograph of, you see Julia Roberts walking down the street at George Clooney's opening last night, and you take her photo and you want to use it, to sell your soap brand or something. She owns her rights to her likeness. The photographer who took that picture owns the rights to that actual photograph. And both of those people have to give permission for you to then go use it for something else. You can't just have it.
And I think that's a really interesting one too, because, with social media, right? I think people are taking screenshots of other people's things and, just putting it on their own. And I think it's so important to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, or somebody will rip something off of somebody else's YouTube channel and say somebody's like a really
Yeah.
clever graphic designer, and they come up with these really cool screens, and somebody grabs a piece of it because they can see it all on YouTube, and then they put it into their other show, and then they use it, and you can't just have it. Somebody else did this work. Somebody else wrote this song. Somebody else wrote this code. Somebody else did whatever, made this video game. And so they're entitled to that, and you can't just have it and go use it for something else without compensating them, and often without their permission.
Yeah.
And if they don't give you permission, then there's a whole nother level of legal, ramifications to that.
Okay, next one. You ready?
Yep.
Exclusivity.
Oh boy. The bane of everybody's existence. So when a deal is being done, and whatever it's for, the folks paying the money want that person, that artist, that photographer, that director to be exclusive to them. They don't want them working on multiple things at once. It's almost impossible nowadays for somebody to be entirely exclusive, unless maybe you're talking about a big actor in a series, and the series is filming for 6 months, White Lotus. Everybody's talking about White Lotus, right? So clearly those folks are all over in Thailand. They're filming for 6 months. They can't be doing anything else in that period of time. Physically, they can't either.
Yeah.
But they might want carve-outs in the exclusivity because they're finishing up another project before they go over, and there's going to be overlap. And so many clients now have so many things going on that how can you really be exclusive? Let's say if you're a senior producer on one of these big award shows, and then there's another show that wants to talk to you about something that's going to be like a year later, but you're always working on 2 or 3 things at once, and so how can you truly be exclusive? Because you're going to be on the phone, on a break about one thing and then another. So it's a complicated thing where, maybe, you're booking these variety specials and they don't want anybody to be on any other variety special with a Christmas genre, but how much money are you paying them to be exclusive?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it becomes tricky. I mean, like booking, the talk shows, and people are going to do a circuit because, they're going around doing the whole routine. And so it's a complicated one where people want the exclusivity. And then how much are you buying? Because if somebody's a producer, say, and the show wants them exclusive exclusive for 20 weeks, well, are they getting paid enough to be exclusive
To
for
survive
20 weeks? Because they've got to eat and they've got to
Yeah.
be able to look at other projects. And then maybe there's options. And then like you're waiting until the option gets picked up. But if it doesn't, and then you have to turn down other work, then you're relying on something that may not happen. And these folks need to earn a living and they need to feed their kids.
Yep. Okay. Next one, usage.
In what way? I mean,
I know there's a ton of ways. What are all the various ways?
so it's just going to be, all media in perpetuity, right? Here and after device. So usage is going to be any way, any kind of material, IP, a recording, whether it's sound or video or photograph is distributed, exhibited, any kind of usage. Is it going to be in a podcast? Is it going to be in a commercial? Is it going to be in a film? Is it going to be on a song? Any kind of use of any kind of content, and where and for how long and when.
Yep.
Because if it's union-based, there's going to be residuals involved. If there's talent appearing in it, then you're going to have to get sign-off on that name, image, likeness stuff again. So.
Okay. Term.
That's the length of a thing. So how long is the term for this thing you want? Is it the length of the contract? Is it the length of a license that you want to use a song in a show? So that's a period of time that's defined by the two parties that enter into the agreement for how long it is.
Yep. I feel like all of these are probably words that I use them 8,000 times a day, and you probably use them 35,000 times a day. Every time we send an offer for something, it's like, well, what's the term? What's the usage? What's the exclusivity?
Right. What does that mean?
Yeah, what
exactly.
does that mean? Is there any project that you've worked on over, whether at SELG or in your whole career, that you feel like was kind of your holy shit, I made it moment, like a profound kind of switch gears for you as a person?
And I would say it was probably doing Barack Obama's first inauguration. It was massive, and it was a big change for the country, and we did 4 huge events. The inaugural ball, the kids ball, the We Are One at the Lincoln Memorial, and the MTV Youth Ball. So there were 4 massive TV shows happening all at the same time. It came together in about 3 or 4 weeks. I was the only lawyer. I was working for myself. My son was, 3, and it was nuts, and it was great, and it was exciting, and things were changing quickly because it was all just live then. So there wasn't, you get ephemeral rights. You could sing whatever song you wanted to. You didn't have to clear it. But then laterally, they wanted to clear a DVD and all these things, and so
DVD throwback,
right?
Yeah,
and they're let's put on a DVD. I'm like, what is that? And so what do I have to do for that? And so I was learning a lot on the fly, and it was scary because it was just stuff I didn't know, and it was moving so quickly. But I think that kind of gave me my footing of like, wow. And then in access to lots of people, every artist out there, all at once, and they were all, a part of it. So it was sort of when I got to know everybody, in the industry. And then it's the same, cast of characters that you come across, for 20, 30 years now. It's all the
really
same
is.
lawyers and agents representing the same people. I mean, sometimes it changes around a little bit, but it's the same people. So I would say probably that. And it was also really cool.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you have as that next milestone you want to hit, whether that's as as an entrepreneur or just in your life in general?
I think as an entrepreneur, it's been a rough start. I started this thing you started a few years before me, so you had things kind of going before the world went sideways. So ever since I started this business, it's been one thing after another, after another, after another. So I'm hoping that if we can get through, obviously today is an interesting day to have this conversation given the stock market is completely tanked and we've got fears of recessions coming now, which obviously impacts our business. I mean, Bob Iger was sounding off the alarm bells this morning because people aren't going to go to the parks. They're not going to have 18 subscriptions to all these different subscription services if the cost of everything is going to go up 10, 20, 30%. If their cars are going to cost a lot, even if you're going to buy an American car, the parts are made elsewhere. So everything is going to get very expensive. So, once again, we're in this fear thing. So, if we can get through this and things kind of revert to the normalcy of what I thought, moving out to Los Angeles and coming here was great for me because I got, the access to so many more people. I mean, New York is a big, base. I came to LA a lot, but just living out here with people knowing I'm here, there's more clients out here. It expanded quite a lot. So I think if things can just be a little normal without wildfires and without strikes and without layoffs and mergers and pandemics and then, every change of administration, right, is always going to have changes. And, what is that going to do to things? So I guess it's to see if what I have been building for all this time is as good as I know it is. It's just we kept getting hit with all these problems, and we've survived it all. So that tells me, I have a viable business. We have a good stream of income. I've got very interesting clients, and they're pretty diverse, and so it's great. So I think my next hope is just to see what should have already happened, and what that means in terms of some sort of stability, for everybody. My team is amazing, and they've been working their tails off. And sometimes it was really hard, because you couldn't do raises or substantial bonuses and things, and they were working insane hours, but the money wasn't coming in. So I'd like to see that part of it shore up so that we can all feel like, okay, right, this is exactly what we thought it was, and then see, just expanding a bit more. We've expanded to quite a number of people. So we now have like 12 or 13 of us, and that's big. We've got New York offices, and we're here, and there's a lot of salaried employees, and we've started 401ks, and we've done all these sort of business things that it blew my mind that 4 or 5 years ago I was going to be thinking about, it's health insurance premium time, and we've got a lot of people on health insurance, and so it's all it's owning a business and all that goes with that. But I guess that's part of it. And then I'd like to see us figure out the social media game a little bit better. I'm not good at this stuff. Hence, I've never done the podcast thing. I haven't had time. I was just trying to survive and get through to really understand what else is going on out there and how to utilize the new technologies and ways to help improve the business or let people know about the business or learn from other people in the business, because I think it's all reciprocal and we have so much to learn from each other.
I love that. Kudos to you and credit, because I think you just said something really profound there, right? Where it's like you could not have been dealt a harder hand.
Correct.
And you have fucking made it through. And while it feels like you're just running through molasses, right? Look at all the growth that you've had.
Yeah.
And look at all the things that you're doing for your employees, right? So it's like even amongst...
Yeah, and a kid in college, at the same time.
Yeah, and everything being thrown your way. It's like you're still surpassing, you're still growing, right?
Yeah.
And I try to remind myself of that too, because it's like you just keep
but it feels hard.
kicked.
Like, why is it so hard? But then my bookkeeper, she's really our CFO, said to me the other day, she said, "But Kerry, you have a really healthy business. You've just had a lot of expenses, and we were growing, right? So we took, and nobody loans people money to start businesses, so you put it all on your own credit and all this stuff, and thanks war on Ukraine, because interest rates went through the ceiling. So I had all these cheap lines of credit that then became astronomical. So all of this stuff. And so she's like, Kerry, you're good. Like, look at all this. The expenses went up. You're getting the expenses down. You're getting things under control. You've added all these bodies. You have enough money to pay everybody. We had over, expenses to get kind of under control as a new business. And it's still a very viable business. Look at the bottom line, So I forget that part sometimes because it's always just so hard, and then you expand and you didn't have reserves, and then something else happens, and then you're like, ooh, and scaling's hard, and you really finally get a groove, and we've got that groove now. We've got so many of the right employees with the right mindset, and they all get along well, and they click. I mean, it's the same with your crew, and when they're all good, it works so well. But, payroll comes every 2 weeks. Once we get through this stuff and it's just normal, that would be...
I know what is normal,
I know what's not.
Yeah, I know. Well, and I know, we talk about this because it's, our businesses are so similar in a way, right? And the size of the business and the clients that we work with, and
we share a lot of clients, and projects, and
it has. It's been a brutal few years, but I do. I think if we can get through this, we can get through anything.
I started 2021, so right in the middle of COVID, April 2021. So it's 4 years.
Yeah, I was...
This month. So there we go. We're 4 years old.
Yeah, that's congratulations. Well, next year, the big 5.
There you go. We'll
what
have
is
a party.
5 years? Is that the paper one? I think 5 years
is
paper. I think it is. Our producer just chimed in and let us know that the 5-year anniversary gift should be wood. So there you go.
There we go.
Get everyone a ruler.
We can knock on wood.
Yeah. So I always like to close out the podcast talking about, sometimes we don't think about what actually brings us joy and what that word means. So I'd love to know, in this moment, what brings you joy?
I think professionally, one of the things that really fuels me and brings me joy is putting people together. And I often do it, most of the time I do it, without thinking about myself in it. This person really needs to know that person, and there'll be such a fit, and they can go do stuff together. And it's less about the transactional element of like, well, if I introduce these two people, then I get this finder's fee or this piece. I never think about myself in that stuff. And I've introduced so many people to each other over the years in life, in friendships, in, two people that just should know each other and they become best friends, two people that should meet and they get married and have a child. In business, like this person should really know that person. They're going to go set the world on fire because they've got so much in common. But I really believe in karma, and I think it all comes back around, and always doing the right thing. And I guess it's sort of similar with paying it forward and mentoring, younger folks that are coming up. I mean, I will always take the calls with, hey, can you talk to my cousin or my best friend's niece, and or internships for friends' kids who want to be in the industry. And sometimes it's hard because you're trying to create an internship for somebody. You don't really have enough work, but they want to give it a shot, and people have done it for my kid, and he wants to be in the business. So, you always want to take care of people and help people, and just figure out a way to do the right thing and be the right person and mentor and help and make opportunities available for people that want to learn. So I think in the professional space, it would be really about people, because this is a people business. Yeah, it's what we do.
It is.
And when you're doing a good deal and you're negotiating something really fun and you achieve something for your client where you get really excited for them, because you can just or if something's really complicated and something's falling apart, and this artist's rep and the production with this, and you just come up with something clever, and you're like, just leave it to me, I got it. And then you just do this thing, and then you're like, here you go, and they're like, no way,
my gosh,
you did it. I'm like, we got it, you're good, congratulations. And then they're like, that's fantastic. So I don't take no for an answer, but I find a way to get to it that everybody feels like it was their idea, or it was a great idea, and I don't need the credit for it. And then you just kind of,
I love that,
just make it happen. Just make it happen.
Yep.
We make things happen. I'm sort of a producer, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, no, for sure. So. It's like relationships and creativity, and then...
And kindness.
Kindness.
Kindness, always. Because that's going to bring the joy. And, there's days the job isn't joyful and it's stressful, but ultimately it's a people business, and I like everybody I work with, and we all just like to laugh and have fun and joke around, and it's just nice when every client starts like a conversation, what their kids are doing, or where they're in college, or what's happening, or like looking at your two boys on your social media pages, and like, oh, they're cute at the beach again this weekend. But I know what's happening in your world, which is nice, and then we can relate as humans to each other, not just two people that are going to do a transaction, and it's not as interesting.
Kerry, thank you so much for giving me the pleasure of being your first podcast experience, because you killed it. I mean, so much information, so much knowledge, and I'm just grateful, that you gave us the time and access to that incredible brain and heart of yours. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Let everyone know how can we find you? What on socials?
You can find us on social. We are on Instagram under our SCLG handle, and on LinkedIn and Facebook. We have a page too. There's a nice little grid that you can see of all the shows we do. So it's just a nice checkerboard of like everything.
Great.
So it's really fun to see Emmys and Grammys and Oscars and Tonys and Democratic conventions and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and all kinds of fun stuff, and TV shows and series. And so there's always fun stuff happening that we do. So, but it's our clients that do it. So we're just lucky that we get to go along for the ride and help them make these great shows. But it's fun to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's incredible. The number of projects and the way that you all do what you do is awesome. And I'm happy that, to have you in my life and that we get to work together too.
Yes, it's fun.
And that's a wrap on another episode of Cultivated Conversations. Please check us out on social at Cultivated Entertainment on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. I'm Jen Proctor on LinkedIn and all the things, and I want to hear from you. Send me your questions and your feedback. Our email is hello@cultivatedent.com. And until next time,